Welcome back to Swift Tale, where real emotions meet unforgettable stories that challenge how we see humanity. If you're visiting for the first time, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because every story here is meant to touch your heart and open your mind. Let me start by asking you a question. Have you ever been judged unfairly because of the way you look, where you're from, or the job you do? Today's story begins in one of the most luxurious hotels in Dubai, where wealth and power shine brighter than the desert sun. But beneath the glittering chandeliers and golden cutlery, something shocking happens. A proud Arab CEO, dressed in an immaculate white thobe, surrounded by clients and admiration, calls a young black waitress stupid. He says it in Arabic, assuming she won't understand. Laughter flickers around the table. The waitress freezes, her hands trembling slightly, yet her eyes remain calm, too calm. Then in the next few seconds she replies in perfect Arabic. Her words cut through the silence like a blade wrapped in silk. The entire restaurant goes quiet. What she says doesn't just expose the CEO's arrogance, it reminds everyone in that room, and now you watching this video, what true dignity looks like. This story matters because it isn't just about language, it's about respect. It's about how power, wealth, and status can make people forget that kindness is the highest form of intelligence. It's about a young woman who turned humiliation into a lesson that even a billionaire couldn't buy. So, as we unfold this tale, ask yourself, how do we treat those who serve us? What would you have done if you were standing in her shoes that day? Stay with me till the end, because this isn't just a story, it's a mirror reflecting who we truly are. Dubai is a city of extremes, towering skyscrapers that pierce the clouds, luxury cars that gleam under the desert sun, and five-star hotels where gold-plated cutlery sits beside crystal glasses. Every corner seems to whisper wealth and power, yet behind this glittering facade, life tells a different story. Inside one of the city's most prestigious hotels, a world exists where the rich are pampered, and the workers silently hold the heartbeat of daily operations. The restaurant, adorned with chandeliers that scatter light like diamonds, is buzzing with affluent patrons. Waiters glide between tables, balancing trays of gourmet delicacies and expensive wine. Among them is Amara, a young black waitress who navigates this world with quiet confidence. She knows the restaurant's rhythm intimately, the timings, the orders, the moods of the guests, but her own presence is often overlooked. At one particular table sits Khalid Al-Mansour, a man whose reputation for power precedes him. His suits are custom-made, his demeanor sharp, and his expectations unforgiving. Patrons and staff alike give him a wide berth, wary of even a slight misstep. Khalid believes that wealth and status dictate intelligence and respect, and he carries this belief with an air of superiority that fills the room. As the lunch service begins, the stark contrast between Amara's world and Khalid's becomes evident. She moves gracefully, attending to every guest, while he sits enveloped in his bubble of entitlement, unaware of the lives he impacts with a single word. The tension between their worlds is subtle at first, a glance, a brief nod, an almost imperceptible frown, but it is there, like a spark waiting for the wind to ignite it. In this restaurant of elegance and opulence, the stage is quietly set for a confrontation that will not only expose arrogance, but also redefine respect in the eyes of everyone present. This section sets the tone for the story, emphasizing the contrast between power and humility, wealth and quiet dignity, and arrogance versus intelligence. It establishes the environment where the dramatic encounter between Khalid and Amara will unfold, making the audience feel the weight of social hierarchies and the tension that bubbles beneath the surface. Amara is more than the uniform she wears or the smile she greets customers with. She is a story of resilience, intelligence, and quiet determination. Born in a small village far from the glimmering skyline of Dubai, she grew up in a home where every day was a lesson in perseverance. Her parents, though limited in resources, instilled in her the values of education, hard work, and dignity. Amara's journey to the city was not motivated by glamour or wealth, it was a responsibility. She came to Dubai to support her younger brother's education, dreaming of giving him opportunities she never had. Working as a waitress in a high-end hotel, Amara learned early on that appearances can be deceiving. While patrons saw a cheerful, polite employee, behind the smile was a mind constantly at work. She was fluent in multiple languages, English, French, and Arabic, and had a remarkable ability to read people's moods and intentions. Every service she provided was executed with precision, patience, and an understanding that the smallest gestures often carry the greatest impact. Despite her competence, Amara faced subtle prejudices daily. Some customers underestimated her, assuming that her role defined her intelligence or worth. Yet, she never allowed these assumptions to diminish her confidence. Instead, she used them as a shield and a weapon, mastering the art of patience and silent strength. In the quiet moments between serving tables, she reflected on the inequalities of the world, the arrogance she would face, and the dignity she would maintain regardless of how she was treated. Amara's life is a balance between sacrifice and ambition, humility and self-respect. She represents countless individuals who serve quietly, overlooked in the corridors of luxury, yet whose intelligence and grace remain unshaken. By the time Khalid Al-Mansour enters her path, the audience already knows that beneath her uniform and polite demeanor lies a mind sharp enough to turn humiliation into a lesson that will leave an indelible mark on everyone in the room. This section humanizes Amara, building empathy and admiration, preparing the audience for the pivotal moment when she confronts arrogance with wisdom and dignity. Khalid Al-Mansour is a man who commands attention the moment he steps into a room. Every movement, every glance radiates confidence, or what many would mistake for confidence. Born into wealth, he inherited not only assets but an unshakable belief that money and status define intelligence, power, and human worth. He dresses impeccably, chooses his words with precision, and expects absolute deference from anyone who crosses his path. To the outside world, he is the picture of success, but beneath the tailored suits and polished shoes lies a man shaped as much by fear and insecurity as by privilege. Khalid's life has been one of contrasts, while the city sees a billionaire who seems untouchable. Those closest to him know of a childhood steeped in pressure and strict lessons about dominance and power. His father, a stern patriarch, drilled into him the notion that wealth must command respect and that weakness is never tolerated. Over the years, this mindset hardened into arrogance, a shield against vulnerability and a tool to maintain authority. Yet this arrogance is not confidence, it is fear disguised as power. As Khalid enters the restaurant, he is used to being admired, unquestioned, and obeyed. Patrons glance at him with a mixture of awe and caution, while staff quickly adjust their pace to meet his expectations. Every waiter who approaches his table is aware of the unspoken rules. Anticipate his needs, never make a mistake, and above all, show respect that borders on reverence. Khalid thrives in this ecosystem, reinforcing his belief that authority and wealth define a person's value. But beneath this exterior, cracks exist, subtle, almost imperceptible. Moments of introspection occasionally reveal a man lonely in his achievements, aware deep down that relationships cannot be bought and respect cannot be commanded with money alone. It is this inner void that will make the encounter with Amara so striking. She is not intimidated by his status or his words. She does not bow to wealth because she understands that true intelligence and dignity cannot be measured in currency. This section establishes Khalid's complex character, his outward arrogance, his internal insecurities, and the environment of power he inhabits. By contrasting his perspective with Amara's humility and strength, the story heightens the tension for the confrontation that will soon take place, emphasizing that intelligence and dignity are not always where wealth and status reside. The restaurant hums with the low murmur of conversation and the clinking of fine china as lunch service reaches its peak. Waiters glide effortlessly between tables, balancing trays heavy with gourmet dishes, while the air carries the aroma of exotic spices and freshly baked bread. At one of the most prestigious tables sits Khalid Al-Mansour, the billionaire CEO whose reputation precedes him. He leans back in his chair, scanning the menu with a precise, almost impatient gaze, radiating the authority of a man accustomed to being obeyed. Amara approaches the table with her usual calm professionalism, holding a tray with Khalid's order. As she carefully sets a plate in front of him, a small mishap occurs. A glass tilts slightly, a drop of water brushes the edge of the table. It's an innocent mistake, one that happens countless times in restaurants worldwide. But for Khalid, this moment is an opportunity. He leans forward, his voice sharp and cold, calling her stupid in Arabic, fully believing she will not understand. The word slices through the air like a blade, carrying not just insult, but the weight of his arrogance. The room seems to freeze. Fellow diners glance around, unsure how to react, while waitstaff momentarily halt in their tracks. Amara's hands tremble for a split second, not from fear, but from the shock of being publicly humiliated. Yet her eyes remain steady, her posture unwavering. The insult, though intended to demean her, ignites a quiet determination within her. She knows this is not just a test of patience, it is a test of dignity. As Khalid smirks, expecting compliance or embarrassment, the audience senses a turning point building. This is the moment where wealth and arrogance confront intelligence and inner strength. The confrontation is no longer about a spilled drop of water. It is about respect, perception, and the silent battle between humility and entitlement. Every heartbeat in the room seems amplified. The diners, the staff, even Khalid himself, unaware that his perceived control is about to be challenged in a way he never anticipated. This section sets the dramatic stage for the story's pivotal moment, establishing tension, emotion, and the stark contrast between Amara's quiet strength and Khalid's brash arrogance. It prepares the audience for the shocking reply that will turn the scene and the CEO on its head. For a moment, the restaurant seems to hold its breath. Khalid al-Mansour leans back in his chair, a self-satisfied smirk on his face, convinced that his insult has left Amara speechless. The murmurs of nearby diners fade into silence as all eyes turn toward her. Amara, standing tall despite the sting of humiliation, takes a measured breath. Every second stretches, charged with tension. Then, in perfect Arabic, she speaks. Her words are calm, deliberate, and piercing, a proverb about humility, respect, and the true measure of intelligence. The effect is instantaneous. Khalid's smirk falters, his eyes widen in shock as the sentence lands with precision. The room, previously tense but controlled, erupts into whispers of awe. Patrons glance at one another, silently acknowledging the power in her response. The waitstaff exchange astonished looks, recognizing that a moment they expected to be ordinary has turned extraordinary. Her voice carries not arrogance, but authority born of confidence and dignity, a voice that commands respect without demanding it. Khalid sits frozen, unable to respond immediately. For the first time, he is confronted not by wealth or status, but by intellect and composure. Every lesson of entitlement he has carried is challenged by the elegance of Amara's reply. She does not raise her voice, she does not shout. Her mastery of language and poise becomes the ultimate counter to his insult. It is a masterclass in silent power, the kind that comes from knowing oneself and refusing to allow another's arrogance to diminish that truth. The tension in the room is palpable. What was meant to humiliate has backfired spectacularly. Khalid's staff and fellow diners are captivated, unable to look away from this moment of poetic justice. Amara's reply is more than a retort. It is a revelation. It exposes the gap between money and true intelligence, between status and respect, and between arrogance and wisdom. In that instant, the restaurant shifts from a place of luxury and hierarchy to a stage where dignity reigns supreme. This section marks the climactic turning point of the story, where Amara's intelligence and composure completely upend the power dynamic, leaving Khalid and everyone present stunned and preparing the narrative for the CEO's reflection and eventual transformation. The restaurant fell into a hushed silence, as if the chandeliers themselves were holding their breath. Khalid al-Mansour leaned back, a smug smile tugging at the corners of his lips, fully expecting Amara to shrink under his insult. But Amara, though her heart raced, remained composed. She straightened her posture, met his gaze without flinching, and spoke in perfect Arabic, her words measured, calm, and unyielding. She quoted a proverb about humility, respect, and the true measure of intelligence. Her voice carrying authority without anger and confidence without arrogance. The effect was immediate. Khalid's smirk faltered, his eyes widening in disbelief. The room, once tense but contained, erupted into a wave of whispers and astonished glances. Patrons exchanged looks of admiration. Some even leaned closer to catch the words that had silenced a billionaire. The waitstaff, frozen seconds before, now shared silent nods of awe. In that instant, Amara's intelligence and dignity eclipsed the opulence around her. Khalid, for the first time, experienced a profound disorientation. He had always believed that wealth and status commanded respect, but here was a young waitress, standing in front of him with nothing but her words and composure, shattering his assumptions. He could neither interrupt nor dismiss her. The power in her reply was absolute. Every lesson he had learned about asserting dominance through fear or money crumbled in that single, precise moment. The whispers grew, yet Amara remained unfazed. She did not raise her voice or demand attention. Her mastery lay in her calm, unwavering delivery. Her response was a lesson not only to Khalid, but to everyone witnessing it. True respect is earned through dignity, intelligence, and self-assurance, not wealth or status. In those few seconds, the balance of power in the room shifted entirely, leaving Khalid stunned and the audience captivated, aware that the arrogance of a billionaire had been met and matched by the quiet strength of a young woman who refused to be diminished. This section captures the climactic pivot of the story, where Amara transforms humiliation into empowerment, leaving Khalid and everyone present reeling from the unexpected reversal of power. After the shocking encounter, Khalid al-Mansour retreats from the table, his usual confidence replaced by a gnawing sense of unease. The hum of the restaurant fades into the background as he replays Amara's words over and over in his mind. Every syllable pierces deeper than any criticism he has ever received. For the first time in years, he feels exposed, not in wealth, not in status, but in his understanding of humanity itself. Alone in his office later that day, Khalid reflects on the arrogance that has shaped his life. He recalls lessons from his father, the relentless pursuit of success, and the countless moments where he equated power with respect. And yet, none of it prepared him for being humbled by someone he underestimated, someone he assumed would be powerless. The realization sinks in: wealth can command attention, but it cannot command respect, nor can it buy wisdom or integrity. Khalid begins to question the way he has interacted with the world. He remembers employees who silently endured his impatience, business associates who nodded in compliance, and the countless times he judged people by appearance or social standing. Amara's reply exposes a truth he had long ignored. Dignity and intelligence are not tied to status, and arrogance can blind even the most successful person. Over the next few days, Khalid obsesses over the incident. He finds himself watching the restaurant from a distance, observing Amara's calm efficiency, the respect she earns naturally from colleagues and patrons alike. Each observation deepens his introspection. He realizes that his reaction was not just about a minor mishap. It was about a lifetime of entitlement meeting someone unafraid to assert their value. This section explores Khalid's internal transformation, his growing awareness of his flaws, and the beginning of genuine regret. It sets the stage for his attempt at redemption, showing the audience that even those blinded by arrogance can recognize their mistakes and seek change when confronted with integrity and wisdom. Days pass, but Khalid al-Mansour cannot shake the memory of Amara's words. Each repetition in his mind carries a sting of humility, and he begins to realize that an apology is not just appropriate, it is necessary. He understands that wealth cannot erase disrespect, and that true redemption requires sincerity, not grand gestures or compensation. With a mix of apprehension and determination, he returns to the restaurant, intent on facing the young woman who had so effortlessly humbled him. Amara notices his approach. There is no fear in her eyes, only a cautious curiosity. Khalid, uncharacteristically nervous, struggles to find the right words. He begins by acknowledging his mistake, his voice tinged with vulnerability. "I was wrong to speak to you that way," he says, "and I want to make it right." His words are simple but sincere, carrying the weight of a man who has finally confronted his arrogance. Amara listens carefully. She does not immediately respond with forgiveness. Instead, she speaks of respect, dignity, and the importance of understanding the humanity in everyone. Her response is measured, getting Khalid to reflect not just on the incident, but on the broader lessons of humility and empathy. She shares her story, her sacrifices, her dreams, and the responsibilities she shoulders, revealing the depth of her character that extends far beyond her role as a waitress. The conversation is transformative. Khalid begins to see the world differently, realizing that true leadership is about respect, listening, and valuing people for who they are, not for their status or role. A subtle bond forms between them, grounded not in hierarchy, but in mutual recognition of integrity and humanity. This section depicts Khalid's active attempt at redemption, showing his growth from arrogance to humility, and highlights Amara's wisdom in teaching him that respect cannot be demanded, it must be earned. It reinforces the story's central theme, that dignity, intelligence, and compassion are the ultimate measures of character. Word of the incident spreads quickly, first within the hotel and then across social media. Videos and whispers of Khalid al-Mansour being humbled by a young black waitress capture the attention of the public. People are captivated not only by the confrontation, but by Amara's dignity and eloquence. Her words, spoken in perfect Arabic, become a symbol of quiet strength and intelligence, inspiring conversations about respect, humility, and the true nature of power. Khalid realizes that the lesson extends beyond his personal growth. It is now an opportunity to set an example for others. Determined to make amends publicly, he arranges a small gathering at the hotel, inviting staff and patrons alike. With sincerity and humility, he speaks about the incident, acknowledging his arrogance and praising Amara's composure. He emphasizes the importance of treating everyone with respect, regardless of social status or occupation. His words, once laden with entitlement, now carry genuine acknowledgement and admiration. The impact is profound. Staff who had long felt invisible see that their work and dignity are valued. Patrons who witness the transformation are reminded that intelligence and character are not measured by wealth. Amara, standing quietly beside him, receives recognition not as a servant, but as a person whose grace and intellect commanded respect. Her example resonates beyond the walls of the restaurant, prompting discussions in offices, homes, and online forums about the power of humility and the courage it takes to speak truth to authority. This section illustrates the broader societal lesson from the story. The incident evolves from a private moment of confrontation into a public example of integrity, respect, and the transformative power of dignity. It reinforces the narrative's central theme, that one act of courage and wisdom can ripple outward, inspiring others to reconsider how they judge, treat, and value those around them. As our story draws to a close, the tale of Amara and Khalid leaves a lasting impression. It reminds us that true respect is earned through dignity, intelligence, and integrity, not purchased with wealth or demanded through status. Amara's calm, measured response to humiliation demonstrates that strength is not always loud or confrontational. Sometimes, the quietest voices carry the most power. Khalid's journey from arrogance to humility shows that even those who believe themselves untouchable can learn, grow, and change when confronted with truth and courage. This story is more than a dramatic encounter. It is a mirror reflecting our own actions and biases. How do we treat those who serve us, who work quietly behind the scenes, or who simply live differently than we do? What can we learn from the courage to speak with wisdom, even when faced with insult? The lessons of this story extend far beyond the walls of a Dubai restaurant. They are universal principles of respect, empathy, and human dignity. Here at Swift Tale, we believe every story carries a heartbeat, and this one is no exception. If you were inspired, moved, or challenged by Amara's courage, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so more stories like this reach others. And don't stop there. Comment below and tell us what lesson from this story resonated most with you. Was it the power of humility, the strength of composure, or the courage to stand up with dignity? Your voice matters, and sharing it can spark reflection, understanding, and change in ways that even a billionaire could never command. Thank you for watching and being part of the Swift Tale community. Remember, respect costs nothing, yet it is worth everything. Let this story remind you that intelligence, kindness, and dignity are qualities that no amount of money or status can buy, and that one voice, one act of courage, can change the world. This section wraps up the narrative, offers final thoughts, reinforces the story's moral lessons, and includes a strong call to action to like, share, subscribe, and comment, engaging the audience and leaving them inspired.